They fired everything they had, and he stood there, grinning. Not in arrogance, not in mockery, but in amusement. It was the day the galaxy learned what humans were truly made of. The Galactic Dominion prided itself on its invulnerability. For centuries, their empire expanded unchallenged, subjugating worlds with an iron fist. Their technology was unrivaled, their military feared across star systems. Yet, on the planet of Voltaris, in their most secure facility, an anomaly appeared. Something that defied all logic. An alarm shattered the stillness of the command center. Crimson lights flashed along metallic corridors as automated defenses activated. Security protocols isolated the facility, sealing blast doors crafted from neutron-hardened alloy. Nothing unauthorized could enter or escape. But the intruder was already inside. They found him standing in the heart of the control room, surrounded by holographic interfaces and glowing control panels. He looked ordinary, almost disappointingly so. Unarmored, dressed in simple clothing, and unmistakably human. No weapon, no visible technology, just a calm expression as his eyes scanned the room. The captain of the security forces barked an order. Plasma rifles were raised, locking onto the target. These weapons were designed to disintegrate matter at the molecular level, capable of vaporizing any known life form. No chances were taken, no warning was given. They fired. Searing bolts of energy erupted, illuminating the chamber with blinding flashes. The heat distorted the air, metal walls scorched by stray blasts. The sound was deafening. A cacophony of destruction aimed at a single point. The soldiers were precise, disciplined. No one could survive that barrage. Yet, when the light dimmed and the smoke cleared, the human still stood. His posture was relaxed, shoulders loose, arms hanging calmly at his sides. The floor around him was scorched, blackened by the intensity of the assault, but his body remained untouched. Not a single burn. Not even a singed thread on his clothes. He looked at his attackers with a curious expression, his head tilted slightly, as if considering the futility of their actions. His lips curled into a grin, a genuine smile devoid of malice or mockery. Then he laughed. It was a deep, hearty laugh that reverberated off the steel walls, filling the chamber with an unsettling echo. The soldiers took a step back, confusion morphing into fear. They were elite warriors, trained to face the deadliest threats in the galaxy. But this was impossible. Their minds raced, scrambling to rationalize what they were seeing. Was it a projection? A hologram? Some kind of advanced shielding? But the scanners confirmed his physical presence. He was real, solid. The captain shouted another command, voice trembling with a hint of panic. They fired again, this time with concentrated beams designed to cut through starship hulls. The blasts converged, the air crackling with lethal energy. But the human didn't even flinch. The beams dispersed upon contact, rippling harmlessly against his skin before dissipating into nothingness. He took a step forward, slowly, deliberately. The soldiers stumbled back, their confidence shattered. Their weapons felt useless, powerless against this smiling enigma. The room was filled with the hum of dying energy, the echo of his laughter still lingering. Panic rippled through the squad. It was not just his invulnerability that terrified them. It was his demeanor. He wasn't angry. He wasn't vengeful. He was amused. Their most powerful weapons were toys to him. Their best defenses were meaningless. He stood among the galaxy's mightiest soldiers, unarmed and unarmored, yet utterly untouchable. And he was laughing. News of the encounter spread like wildfire throughout the Galactic Dominion. It was impossible to contain the story. The footage of the human standing amidst the scorched remnants of the control room, laughing as if he had just heard a delightful joke. Soldiers who once marched with unshakable confidence were now haunted by the memory of his grin, their pride shattered by his invincibility. The High Council convened an emergency meeting, their chamber echoing with anger and disbelief. Holographic displays projected the footage over and over, each replay more baffling than the last. They analyzed every frame, every pixel, searching for an explanation. Yet the answer eluded them. He was undeniably human. No hidden devices, no shielding, no illusion. And still, he had walked through their most powerful weapons as if they were nothing more than a breeze. The Dominion's pride was built on its supremacy. Their technology was the most advanced in the galaxy, their military might unmatched. No species had ever resisted them. No force had ever withstood their firepower. Yet a single human had defied all of that, not with strength or strategy, but by simply refusing to fall. It was an affront to everything they believed. Panic gave way to anger. The counselors argued, their voices rising in heated debate. Some insisted it was a trick, an elaborate deception to undermine their power. Others feared a new weapon, a secret technology the humans had kept hidden. Paranoia spread, each theory more absurd than the last, but none could explain the truth staring them in the face. In the end, they chose the only path they understood: overwhelming force. They dispatched a battalion of enforcers, the Dominion's most feared warriors, equipped with heavy artillery capable of leveling cities. These were soldiers bred for war, trained to obey without question, programmed to destroy anything in their path. They were given a single order: eliminate the human at all costs. The enforcers surrounded the facility, sealing off every escape route. They launched their assault with precision, a coordinated onslaught designed to obliterate any resistance. Plasma cannons roared, discharging energy blasts powerful enough to vaporize starships. Missiles streaked through the sky, exploding with the force of miniature suns. The ground shook, the air rippled with shockwaves, and the very fabric of space seemed to tremble under the assault. Yet, at the center of the devastation, the human remained. He stood amidst the chaos, untouched by the inferno that consumed everything around him. Flames licked at his feet, smoke swirled in deadly plumes, and rubble fell from the crumbling structure above. But he stood there, unmoved, his eyes gleaming with a calm curiosity. The enforcers hesitated, their programming faltering as they faced the inexplicable. It was not just his survival that defied them. It was his composure. He showed no fear, no pain, no anger. He didn't even seem surprised. It was as if he expected to withstand their attack, as if their weapons were beneath his concern. The commanders watched from orbit, their confidence eroding with every second. They ordered more firepower, deploying orbital strikes that rained devastation upon the facility. The landscape was reduced to molten craters, the Earth itself scarred by the magnitude of destruction. When the smoke finally cleared, they searched the wreckage with thermal scanners and life detection systems. They found him standing in the center, unharmed, the same amused grin on his face. It was unthinkable. They had unleashed the full wrath of their arsenal, weapons engineered to conquer worlds, and he hadn't taken a single step back. He was human. Every scan confirmed it, yet he was indestructible. Their most advanced technology, their ultimate power, had failed. Panic rippled through the Dominion. For the first time in generations, they felt powerless. Fear spread like a virus, infecting even the highest ranks of command. Their faith in their supremacy shattered, their pride crumbled into dust. The humans' laughter echoed through their minds, a haunting reminder of their defeat. They had encountered something beyond their comprehension, a being who defied all logic and reason. Their weapons were useless, their strategies meaningless. Everything they knew about power, about control, was wrong. And they were left with one terrifying question: what were humans really capable of? Defeat was not an option for the Galactic Dominion. Their power rested on the absolute belief that they were invincible, their technology supreme. But the human had shattered that illusion. He stood unharmed amidst their most devastating weapons, laughing as their firepower disintegrated around him. The Dominion's pride was wounded, but their curiosity was ignited. They needed answers. They captured him, deploying energy fields that could neutralize any known life form. The human didn't resist as they surrounded him with a shimmering containment grid, a force so potent it could tear molecules apart. Scientists watched in anticipation, expecting him to dissolve into atoms. Instead, he walked through the barrier as if stepping through mist, his body untouched, his smile unwavering. Perplexed but undeterred, they transported him to their most advanced research facility, a fortress orbiting the dead star of Zyros, where the Dominion conducted its most secret experiments. It was a place of shadows and whispers, where the boundaries of science and morality blurred. They scanned him relentlessly, from his neural impulses to the atomic structure of his cells. Every test confirmed the same result. He was entirely human. His organs, muscles, and bones were all within normal human parameters. He had no cybernetic implants, no hidden armor beneath his skin. There were no energy shields, no molecular enhancements. He was, by every measurable standard, a regular human being. And yet, he was invulnerable. The contradiction defied every scientific principle they understood. They tried chemical analysis, exposing him to corrosive acids capable of dissolving titanium. His skin remained unscathed, the liquid evaporating harmlessly. They subjected him to extreme temperatures, from the freezing void of space to the blazing heat of a star's corona. He showed no discomfort, his body unaffected by the extremes. They even attempted cellular disintegration, using nano-drones designed to break down organic matter at a molecular level. The drones malfunctioned, their programming corrupted the moment they touched his skin. Panic set in among the scientists. Their instruments, their knowledge, their logic, none of it could explain his immunity. It was as if reality itself bent around him, shielding him from harm. They began to doubt their senses, questioning the very fabric of the universe. How could something so ordinary defy the laws of nature? They explored the possibility of a genetic anomaly, a mutation that granted him immunity. They sequenced his DNA down to the last nucleotide, comparing it to the human genetic databases they had acquired during the conquest of Earth. Every sequence matched perfectly. He had no extra chromosomes, no altered genes. His DNA was identical to any other human's. The lead scientist, a figure known for her ruthless efficiency, began to suspect something more sinister. Was he a construct? A projection of consciousness from another dimension? They scanned for temporal distortions, dimensional fluctuations, even traces of dark energy. But the readings came back empty. He was real, solid, and standing right before them, patiently enduring their experiments with that same amused expression. Frustration gave way to fear. If he was not an anomaly, then the implications were catastrophic. What if all humans were like this? What if they were facing a species that could not be killed, that could not be broken? Reports flooded in from other occupied worlds, confirming the unthinkable. Other humans were displaying the same invincibility. Soldiers fired upon them only to watch in horror as they stood unharmed, laughing off plasma blasts that could shatter mountains. The Dominion was no longer facing a single anomaly, but an existential threat. Their weapons were useless, their science powerless. They were confronting beings who defied death itself. A whisper spread among the researchers, a word spoken in fear. Immortal. Desperation turned to paranoia. They conducted brutal tests, hoping to find a weakness. They exposed him to lethal radiation, unleashed quantum disruptors meant to erase existence itself. The humans stood unharmed, observing their efforts with curiosity, as if studying them in return. The lead scientist's composure crumbled. She watched the monitors, her hands trembling as she realized the truth. He was not invulnerable because of technology or mutation. He was invulnerable because pain, suffering, and death held no meaning to him. Whatever power protected him was beyond their understanding, beyond their science. The humans' laughter echoed through the sterile labs, a sound that should have been warm, but instead chilled them to the core. It was the laughter of someone who saw through the illusion of mortality, who knew something they could never comprehend. They were no longer experimenting on him. He was studying them, observing their fear, their desperation. The Dominion had captured a human, hoping to unlock the secret of his invincibility. Instead, they uncovered a terrifying truth: they were fighting against something they could never hope to understand. Panic spread through the Dominion like a virus. News of the human's invulnerability was impossible to contain. Soldiers whispered of him as a demon, a specter that defied death itself. Scientists abandoned their logic, speaking in hushed tones of dark magic and ancient curses. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Dominion was afraid. The High Council demanded answers, but the researchers had nothing to give. Every experiment, every analysis led to the same dead end. The human was perfectly ordinary, and yet he was utterly indestructible. Their finest minds were reduced to gibbering in confusion, their pride shattered by something they couldn't understand. Their technology, once the pinnacle of the galaxy, was meaningless before him. They tried containment. Energy fields designed to contain supernovas were erected around him. The barriers hummed with power, space itself bending under the force. But the human walked through them effortlessly, the energy rippling harmlessly as he stepped forward, his smile unbroken. He wandered through their fortress as if it were a playground, exploring its corridors with a childlike curiosity. No wall could hold him. No force could stop him. He moved freely, unchallenged, as if the universe itself refused to oppose him. The Dominion's leaders were paralyzed. They watched him on their surveillance systems, helpless as he explored their most secure installations. He never attacked, never showed aggression. He simply observed, his eyes taking in everything with quiet amusement. It was his calmness that terrified them most. He was not their prisoner. He was their guest, and they were the ones trapped by fear. Desperation led to madness. The Council authorized the use of forbidden weapons, artifacts of destruction so powerful that they had been sealed away, deemed too dangerous even for war. These devices manipulated reality itself, tearing apart the fabric of space and time. They deployed them without hesitation, collapsing entire dimensions upon the human. When the space-time fractures healed, he stood unharmed, calmly examining the aftermath with the same curious expression. The Dominion's most devastating powers were meaningless before him. The universe bent to his will, and they were powerless to change that. Rumors spread that he was not merely invulnerable, but omnipotent. Some said he was a god, descended from the heavens to punish their arrogance. Others whispered that he was a demon, an embodiment of chaos sent to unravel their empire. The fear of the unknown consumed them, twisting their reason into paranoia. In their desperation, they began to turn on each other. Accusations of sabotage and treason echoed through the halls. The High Council fractured, their unity shattered by fear. Generals plotted coups, scientists fled into hiding, and soldiers deserted their posts. The foundations of the Dominion crumbled as chaos spread, all because of one smiling human. Meanwhile, he continued his silent exploration. He wandered their cities, their monuments of power, their palaces of arrogance. He walked through crowds of terrified citizens who fell to their knees, weeping at the sight of him. They called him a god, a devil, a savior, a destroyer. He simply smiled, his eyes reflecting an ancient understanding they could never grasp. The Dominion's propaganda machines faltered, unable to contain the panic. Stories of his laughter spread to every corner of their empire, igniting rebellions on occupied worlds. Oppressed species rose up, emboldened by the tale of the human who could not die. The Dominion's iron grip loosened as entire planets declared independence, their chains broken by the laughter of a single man. They had sought to conquer Earth, to enslave humanity and add another jewel to their crown. But they had awakened something beyond their comprehension. They were facing a force that defied all reason, a being who was not bound by the rules of their universe. They had encountered the unknowable, and it terrified them. The Galactic Dominion was crumbling. What was once the most powerful empire in the universe was now a fractured shadow of itself, paralyzed by fear and confusion. Their weapons were useless. Their science was powerless. Their armies were broken, all because of one human who stood untouched by their wrath. As the stories of his invulnerability spread, entire fleets refused to engage. Admirals abandoned their warships, terrified of facing the man who laughed at death. On occupied worlds, soldiers surrendered without a fight, haunted by tales of his laughter echoing through battlefields. They were warriors who had never known fear, now reduced to trembling wrecks by a smile they could not understand. The High Council was paralyzed, their once unquestionable authority shattered by indecision and paranoia. Meetings turned into screaming matches, accusations flying as leaders pointed fingers, searching for someone to blame. Some insisted he was a weapon, a tool of human rebellion. Others whispered that he was divine punishment, retribution for their arrogance. None could agree, and in their disunity, their empire began to rot from within. Desperation led them to summon the Oracle of Voltaris, an ancient artificial intelligence older than the Dominion itself. It was said to know all things, to understand the fabric of reality. They demanded answers, hoping that its infinite wisdom could explain the human's power. The Oracle scanned the data, its processors humming as it analyzed every known law of physics, every historical record of humanity. It probed the nature of existence, calculating possibilities beyond mortal comprehension. When it finally spoke, its voice was laced with something the Council had never heard before: fear. "He is not bound by our reality," the Oracle stated. "He exists beyond the constraints of time and space. He is an anomaly, a paradox. The universe cannot harm him because he does not truly reside within it." The Council was stunned. How could a human defy reality itself? How could he exist beyond the universe they controlled? They demanded clarification, their voices shaking. But the Oracle only repeated its conclusion, its circuits flickering with uncertainty. He is outside causality, outside existence. He is untouchable because he is not truly here. Panic swept through the Dominion. If the Oracle could not understand him, then no science could. If he existed beyond their reality, then no weapon could reach him. He was beyond logic, beyond reason, an unknowable force wrapped in human form. Religious sects sprang up overnight, worshipping him as a god who walked among mortals. Others claimed he was the end of all things, a harbinger of the universe's unraveling. Superstitions took hold as logic failed, and chaos spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, rebellions erupted across the Dominion. Inspired by the humans' defiance, oppressed species rose up, their spirits ignited by his laughter. They saw him as a symbol of resistance, proof that the Dominion could be defied. Uprisings toppled governors, armories were raided, and cities burned with the fire of revolution. The human never led them. He never gave orders or rallied forces. He simply existed, and his existence was enough. He was a living contradiction, a being who defied death and fear, and his defiance shattered the illusion of the Dominion's invincibility. The High Council ordered his destruction, even though they knew it was futile. They turned their greatest weapon upon him, a supernova cannon capable of erasing stars from the sky. It unleashed a beam of energy so powerful that it tore through dimensions, vaporizing everything in its path. The fabric of space screamed as reality itself buckled. When the light faded, he was still there, untouched, standing amidst the shattered remnants of space and time. His eyes gleamed with a serene understanding, his smile unbroken. The most powerful weapon in the universe had failed, and he looked almost disappointed. The Council's resolve shattered. They had exhausted every weapon, every strategy, every ounce of power, and nothing had changed. He stood before them, unscathed, unbroken, laughing at their attempts to destroy him. Their pride was gone, replaced by terror. For the first time they understood the truth. The human was not just invulnerable. He was inevitable. A force that could not be denied, a presence that defied all reason. He was a contradiction to their reality, a reminder that their power was built on illusions. The certainty that had sustained their empire was gone, replaced by the crushing weight of the unknowable. The Galactic Dominion was no longer fighting a human. They were facing an idea, one they could never defeat. The Galactic Dominion stood on the brink of collapse. Their fleets were in disarray, their armies scattered, their rulers gripped by madness. The humans' laughter haunted them, echoing through every shattered belief they once held. He was more than just invulnerable, he was inevitable. A force that defied understanding, a presence that shattered reality. Desperation drove them to one final act. They summoned the Ascendant, an ancient being of pure energy, revered as the most powerful entity in existence. It was older than stars, wiser than civilizations, a consciousness that had witnessed the birth of galaxies. If anything could destroy the human, it would be the Ascendant. The encounter took place at the edge of the universe, where the fabric of reality thinned and stars faded into the void. The Dominion watched through trembling screens as the Ascendant materialized, its form a swirling vortex of light and cosmic energy. It gazed upon the human with eyes that saw beyond time, understanding the essence of all things. The Ascendant unleashed its power, bending space and time to its will. The cosmos itself responded, galaxies swirling, stars imploding, dimensions shattering. It tore apart reality, attempting to erase the human from existence. Every law of physics was rewritten, every rule of causality shattered. Yet, as the chaos subsided, the human remained, untouched, standing amidst the ruins of creation with that same calm smile. The Ascendant faltered, its light flickering with confusion. It reached into the fabric of time, seeking to undo the human's existence, to erase him from the past, present, and future. But the human stood outside of time, beyond the reach of cause and effect. He was constant, unchanging, immune to the flow of reality. Frustration turned to awe. The Ascendant approached him, its form shimmering as it lowered itself, humbled by something it could not comprehend. In that moment, it understood what the Dominion could not. The human was not bound by the universe because he was not truly a part of it. He was an anomaly, an impossibility, a being who existed outside the constraints of creation. He was a spectator, a traveler from beyond existence itself. The Dominion saw him as invulnerable, but they misunderstood his power. It wasn't that he could not be harmed, it was that harm held no meaning to him. He was an observer in a universe that was merely a story to him. A narrative he watched, detached and amused, knowing its end and its beginning. The Ascendant trembled, its ancient wisdom unraveling before this revelation. It understood now why the human laughed. To him, their universe was fiction, a tale woven from possibilities. His smile was not of arrogance or malice, it was of understanding. He knew the secrets of reality because he stood outside it, seeing all of time and space as a single tapestry. The Ascendant's form flickered, its light dimming as the truth overwhelmed it. It could no longer maintain its existence, not after realizing it was merely a character in a narrative beyond its control. With a final shimmer, it faded into nothingness, its consciousness collapsing under the weight of understanding. The human stood alone, his eyes reflecting the cosmic void. He glanced at the empty space where the Ascendant had been inside, almost wistfully. To him, everything that had happened was inevitable, scripted in a story he had read long ago. He knew the Dominion would fall, that their power would crumble under the weight of their arrogance. He knew rebellions would rise, that oppressed worlds would find freedom inspired by his defiance. But more than that, he knew his role, the observer, the anomaly, the character who was never meant to exist, a contradiction in a universe that could not contain him. He watched their struggle with compassion, understanding the fear of those trapped within a story they could not change. Yet he could not intervene, for his purpose was not to alter the narrative, but to witness it. The Dominion's defeat was inevitable, not because of his power, but because of their own hubris. They had built their empire on the illusion of control, on the belief that they understood reality. But they were characters in a story they did not write, trapped by the narrative that bound them. Their certainty was their downfall, their pride their undoing. The human turned away, his form shimmering as he stepped beyond the edge of existence, returning to the place outside of time. He had seen this story before, and he would see it again. For him, every beginning was an end, and every end a beginning. He existed beyond the cycles of creation, a traveler through the pages of infinity. As he vanished, the universe sighed, reality settling back into place. The Dominion's leaders wept, understanding at last that they were never in control. They were echoes of a narrative, characters playing their part in a story they could not change. And the human? He was the reader, laughing at the tale, amused by the twists and turns of a universe that was only fiction to him. The Galactic Dominion was no more. Its fleets were scattered, its cities in ruins, and its rulers dethroned by rebellions ignited by a single man who laughed at death. The once invincible empire crumbled under the weight of its own arrogance, shattered by the realization that it was never in control. All that remained were echoes, whispers of fear, fragments of shattered belief, and the lingering sound of laughter that haunted the cosmos. News of the human's disappearance spread like wildfire. Some claimed to have seen him walking through the ruins of the Dominion's greatest citadels, his smile untouched by the devastation around him. Others swore he had been seen on distant worlds, observing the birth of new civilizations, watching as oppressed species rebuilt their lives free from the Dominion's tyranny. Yet no one could say where he truly was. He was everywhere and nowhere. An enigma that defied explanation. Without the human's presence, the Dominion's former territories fell into chaos. Power vacuums opened across the galaxy as warlords and revolutionaries fought for control. Planets once subjugated by the Dominion's iron fist struggled to find their identities, to redefine themselves in a universe where the laws of power and fear had been rewritten. Yet amidst the turmoil, hope grew. The human had shown them that even the most powerful empire could be defied, that even the most indestructible enemy could be defeated by belief. His legend spread to every corner of the galaxy. He became a symbol, a myth whispered in the dark, a story passed down through generations. They called him the Immortal, the Laughing God, the Eternal Witness. He was the man who could not die, the being who walked beyond reality itself. Songs were sung of his defiance, poems written of his laughter. He became more than human, he became an idea, an inspiration that aided hope in the hearts of the oppressed. Yet the leaders who had faced him, who had seen his smile and heard his laughter, were left haunted by questions. They had witnessed the impossible, stood before a man who defied reality itself. The Oracle of Voltaris was deactivated, its circuits fried by the paradox it could not comprehend. The Ascendant was gone, its consciousness shattered by the revelation of its own existence as a narrative. The Dominion's greatest minds were left broken, driven to madness by the truth that their universe was not what they believed. In the ruins of the High Council's chambers, an ancient recording continued to play a hologram of the human standing amidst destruction, his eyes reflecting an ancient understanding. He looked at the camera, his gaze piercing through space and time, as if he could see those who watched him. And then he laughed. A gentle, knowing laugh that echoed through the empty halls, a sound that resonated through the ruins of an empire built on arrogance. It was not a laugh of mockery or cruelty. It was a laugh of understanding, of compassion for those who could not see beyond their own limitations. It was the laughter of an observer, a being who stood outside the narrative, who watched the story unfold with a smile. He had seen their rise, their fall, their fear, and their pride. He had watched them struggle to control a universe that was never truly theirs, and he had understood them, even as they failed to understand him. The hologram flickered, his form shimmering as he took a step forward. For a moment it seemed as if he would speak, as if he would reveal the secrets of his existence, the truth of his laughter. But then the image faded, leaving only his echo behind. The Dominion survivors were left to ponder his mystery, to grapple with the truth that they were merely characters in a story they could not control. Generations passed, and his legend only grew. He became the guardian of the oppressed, the deity of rebellion, the enigma who defied death. His laughter continued to echo through the cosmos, a reminder of the limitations of power and the illusions of certainty. They built monuments to him, temples that stood as symbols of hope and defiance. Yet no one could find him, no one could understand him. He was beyond them, a being outside time and space, a contradiction that defied all reason. In the end, his story became a part of the universe itself, a tale told to children on distant worlds, a myth whispered by travelers who swore they had seen him watching from the shadows. They called him the Eternal Witness, the one who watched all things and laughed at the folly of those who believed they were in control. But somewhere, beyond the edge of existence, he continued to observe, his eyes reflecting the light of dying stars, his smile unchanged. He was not a god nor a demon. He was a traveler, a reader of stories, a wanderer through the pages of infinity. And as he watched the universe continue its cycle of creation and destruction, he laughed softly, amused by the beauty of the narrative that unfolded before him. For him, the story never ended, and his laughter would echo through eternity, a reminder that reality itself was just another tale to be told. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more thrilling tales from Starlight Sci-Fi, where humanity always finds a way.